My name is Ori Glens. I'm a photographer based out of Minnesota and the lead developer for Inalbeo. Today I'm showing off Inalbeo Grade, an all-in-one color grading extension for Photoshop. This portrait I took isn't bad, but we can make it better. To start, we simply click the Create button. The extension has created 6 luminosity-based layers, 3 for color and 3 for luminance. To change between them, we use the lows, mids, and highs buttons. We can also view what each layer is affecting by default by alt-clicking the created layer masks. Let's get to grading. We're going to work on the lows first, which will primarily affect the background in this image. Click in the circle to begin grading. As we move the cursor around, we can see the changes as they happen. When grading images, I personally like to use colors that are already in the image. For example, her eyes and the background are blue, so I went with a blue color. Here it is before and after. This slider affects the opacity. And this slider affects the brightness of the color, which will have different effects depending on the blend mode. Different blend modes will have different effects. For example, using linear light on the lows will greatly increase contrast, depending on the lightness of the color. However, I'm going to go for a more controlled approach by using the color blend mode. These controls affect the brightness of the selected luminance range by using curves. We're going to make the lows darker by bringing down the midpoint and try clipping the black levels a bit by bringing up the lower control. That's too dark for me, but we can reset the controls just like anything else in Grade by right-clicking. Let's bring the middle point back down by itself. Even though we haven't used a color to grade the mids, we can still affect the luminance. I'm going to bring down the middle values by using the dark control. This will affect all of the middle brightness, but especially the darker end. For the highs, we'll bring down their values as a whole, but increase the brightness on the high end to give a contrasty look. Here it is before and after so far. We could be done with this image, but I'm going to add a bit more color. Her lips are pink and we'll use that for the highs. It'll also bring some color into her cheeks. The soft light blending mode will be more subtle than color, but I'm going to increase the opacity of the layer a bit to compensate. The default luminosity ranges have been tuned for quick and dirty use as they're nice and broad, but we can further limit both the color and brightness changes using this tool. To limit the color, click and move the slider, instantly seeing the changes. If you want less of a hard cutoff in your limit, you can hold the Shift button down while using the tool. Again, right-clicking resets. To limit your brightness changes, hold Control while using the tool. This can also be combined with the Shift button to make the transition more gradual. I'm going to change the opacity levels a bit to match my vision, and then we'll be done. Here's a before and after. A little bit goes a long way. Grade isn't only a good tool to add color, it can also be great to color correct images. It's happened to all of us. We edit an image and think it looks great until we get a second look at it sometime later. The middle luminance range is great to correct this. This image is a bit green, so we're going to add the opposite of the color wheel to counteract that. Next, I'm going to do the same with the low values, which will also enhance the leaves in the background. The hard mix blending mode will add some needed contrast. Their skin is now looking a bit too red, so we're going to add back just a bit of green in order to balance it out. We'll adjust the opacity of the greens to a good level. Here it is before and after. We can also adjust the opacity of the entire group and therefore grade at once. For this senior image, I think we can go a bit more extreme. We're going to start by adjusting the luminance values before adding any color. First we'll bring down the highlights as they're a bit overexposed. Then we'll add contrast to the middle values by making the dark end darker and the light end lighter, a technique that's helpful for a lot of images. Now we can start with the color. I'm going to go for a pink and teal look, so we'll add a pink to the lows. Normally, I would add the second color to the highs, but with this image being so dark, I think the mids will work better. Also, you generally want to avoid adding green to people's skin, and this image is no exception. We'll limit the color changes to the lower end of the mids. I'll increase the opacity of the layer both to see what I'm doing better, and also because I want to add more color. I'll increase the opacity of the low layer to match. You can change the blend modes for all of the color layers at once by control-clicking the buttons. The same goes for the brightness and opacity sliders. Brightness greatly affects the blend modes other than color, and I think both linear light and normal blend modes work well for this image. However, I'm going to stick with the color blend mode. To finish the image, I'm going to add more color to her face by adding red to the highs, changing it to the soft light blend mode, and upping the opacity. Here it is before and after. And here the whole image is before and after. As you've seen, Inalbeo Grade is a powerful and easy to use tool to bring your images to the next level. If you've never graded your images before, it's an easy and powerful way to start. If you already do, Grade will greatly simplify and speed up the process.